So there's one topic that comes up quite often on the internet forums, on groups, everywhere you look online. People that live in a colder climate don't always want to ride all winter, or sometimes they've got a bike that you are not putting on those roads until they clear up and it's warm out. That's the case with this Shadow here, and I figure while it's a little late in the year now, I'm going to share my knowledge on the subject, and hopefully maybe it helps you now, maybe it helps you next year, or someone finds this video 10 years from now, it could help them then. But we're going to go ahead and dive right in because it is cold out here and I'm in just a hoodie and I'm hurting today. So on the front of maintenance, a lot of people ask the question, should I change my fluids, my oil, do brakes, bearings, whatever else before or after storage or while it's in storage? And it doesn't really matter. That oil gets contaminated by mileage, but the oil itself doesn't actually go bad. The detergents in it do. Once you start getting wear and tear and parts from the engine in that oil, that's when you start needing an oil change. But it's going to be fine if you park it over winter, do your oil change before you fire it up for the year next year, or vice versa, however you want to do it. What I would do is take the time and do all your basic maintenance on the bike now. When you're storing it, while it's winter time, it's going to be cold and it's going to suck to work on. But it beats missing the first few days of the warm season because you still have shit to do on your bike and you didn't do it for, the 3 or 4 months that it was down and you weren't riding it. That's actually going to be the case on this VTX over here. This one, at some point this winter, I'm still riding it. I haven't winterized it or anything else, but it's going to be getting steering head bearings. I can't take both hands off the bars. You're not supposed to, in the mind of safety, but it does get a wobble. While I'm doing that, I'm doing front and rear wheel bearings. I need new bushings in the rear shocks, so I'm replacing those. And that's all going to get done probably January through March when there's just too much snow to even catch one good day of riding. So do your maintenance whenever, your oil change, filter change whenever. Do the work that it actually needs when it's down. As far as the next question you hear a lot is tires. What should I do? Should I put my bike on a lift? If you got a lift that you're not using for the winter for other bikes, go ahead and do it. That's fine. What I do is, in this case, this bike's air ride, and I've got that disconnected. We'll get into that in a moment, but I've got it blocked up and sitting with most of the bike's weight off the tires. If you can't do one of those two, then it'd be a good idea every week or two just come out, move the bike just a foot or two in each direction, park it a couple foot forward, then a couple weeks later park it a couple foot back. You're going to prevent your tires from flat spotting by doing that, and make sure you've always got the recommended PSI in your tires too. You're going to find that information on the sidewall of every tire ever made for these bikes. Now, I know I'm rushing, but I'm going to keep flying into the next topics. We're talking air ride. This, like I said, I've got all my lines disconnected. I have it disconnected under there at the manifold as well, and that's just because I run a tankless system to keep it clean on this bike. The bike parks with no kickstand. It drops all the way to the ground. So what we did was we rolled it in, aired up all the way, slid the blocks under, and then let all the air out of the system. And just in case there's condensation in those lines, I went ahead and unplugged them too. So that way if stuff does freeze up, it's got place to expand, just like the freeze plugs on a car engine. Other than that, the other reason I've got it blocked up besides tires is just to keep the strain off the airbags and off the front air pistons. I'll get into this system in another video at another time because I do have some upgrades I want to put into it before we hit the show circuits next year. The next one, probably the biggest question people ask, is going to be fuel. And you see a lot of advice out there, and I'm sure these people are mean to give the best advice, but don't park your bike with the fuel tank empty. Don't run all the fuel out of the carbs or the lines of your fuel injected. Don't do any of that. What you're going to do instead is pick up a product kind of like this Sta-Bil here. I'm going to hold it up. Hopefully it focused on that. It's just storage. It's got a ratio on it. It's got a measurement on the bottle. fill your gas tank up all the way and put Sta-Bil in it. I don't know exactly how it works. It's some kind of mix of witchcraft, wizardry, and magic illusion, but it'll keep your fuel stable over the winter, and they actually have formulas that bind to ethanol somehow. Once again, I don't know how, but it does prevent the ethanol corrosion that everybody uses as a counterpoint to keeping your fuel tank full. The reason you keep it full is because you want to eliminate as much air in that system as possible. If you're eliminating the air, you're eliminating places for moisture to collect. And by keeping it full, you're keeping that moisture off of where it's going to naturally fall to in the lower areas in the bare steel of your tank. Most tanks, if they're in good condition, are going to be bare steel, and that gas alone is going to keep it from corroding and rusting out, giving you problems in the future with your fuel system. Once you put the Sta-Bil in, you got a full tank. Just go ahead, run the bike 10-15 minutes, let it idle right before you store it. That way you can work that Sta-Bil into the carbs, or you can work it through the fuel lines and into your fuel injection systems. Then it's good. That's all you really have to do. It's not difficult. A lot of people are acting like this is some complex math problem they got to go through. It's just simple shit. Every year, do it, make a habit out of it. Trust the products, because I've been doing this for years. Motocross since I was 8. Street bikes now. I've been messing with two-wheelers for 30 years now. So we're going to go into the next one, which would be battery. It's another simple one. Get a tender, plug it onto the battery, let it keep the battery tended all winter. That's what they're there for. If you don't have a tender, take the battery inside, throw it on the charger once a month, let it get a top off or a maintenance charge on it. I run lithium on this bike, so whether I had a tender or not, I took the battery in and it's sitting inside where it's nice and warm. I know the technology's changed, but I spent so many years messing with RC cars, I'm really leery about how lithium batteries perform and behave. So I keep it out of the cold, put a top off charge or maintenance charge on it once a month. It'll be good when I come back next year. Then finally, the last thing I want to get to that I could think of off the top of my head to cover. So you're going to notice there's dryer sheets shoved in here. Sheets shoved where my electronics are, shoved into the end of the exhaust. I've got more up here by the pods on the carbs and the fuel lines. That's just because rodents hate dryer sheets. And the last thing you want to find is that some mouse got into your cylinder or your head and made itself a nest right there because your exhaust was open and you didn't have anything to deter it. So throw some dryer sheets in, and then just anywhere where there's a line, electric parts, stuff they can get into, put them in there. Just remember to take them out next spring. I've made that mistake and it smells nothing like they do when they're not on fire. After that, cheap tarp. And your bike doesn't care if you spend top dollar on a cover or if you get an $8 tarp from Menards. Just get something to cover it, keep the dust off of it, keep it fresh, so that way next year you can come back and have one less thing to do, which would probably be cleaning that bike. That being said, I'm going to go in, I'm going to tarp this off and get her covered up first, and then I'm going to go in where it's nice and warm because Ohio sucks, and it's at that point of the year already. Y'all have a good holiday, and thank you very much for watching.